In January, you promised 5 local inquiries into the rape gangs scandal in this country. I'm sure you agree it's one of the most horrific crimes committed against children in this country. But then we get this announcement from Jess Phillips yesterday, 45 minutes before Easter recess began, it must be said, saying that following feedback, there's now going to be this flexible approach. There's now going to be locally led work on grooming gangs. Are you really allowing councils to mark their own homework? Are you abandoning the victims?
No, absolutely not. And I can say to you, as someone who worked with some of the victims of grooming scandals before I came into Parliament, all the way back to young people, young girls particularly in Keighley, Rotherham, Rochdale, that we will not do that as a government. What we've done is listen both to victims and to local communities, whether it's the council or the police or other agencies, to give them the tools that they need to tackle this problem. It's no use us just trying to impose one solution from Whitehall. We know that there are repeated patterns over and over again about young girls not being believed because they're young, because they're female and because they're working class, and the warning signs and the warnings that when they raise their voices going unheard and unacted upon. We're absolutely determined to make sure that we give local areas the tools that they need to tackle the problems in their communities, and we will hold them to account for it. Of course we will, and the Minister, Jess Phillips, is absolutely determined to do so. But what we won't do is pretend that just announcing inquiries is the way to solve this problem. In some cases we need inquiries, in other cases we don't. We need other measures, and that's what we're working with communities to do.
OK, Lisa and Andy, we've got to leave it there. Thank you. Good luck with your plans.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GBnews to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Meanwhile, the number of people jailed in Rotherham for rioting at a hotel housing asylum seekers has now exceeded the number of grooming gang abusers actually jailed from that town.
Well, GB News can reveal that since last August, South Yorkshire Police have made over 100 arrests in connection with the disorder at the asylum hotel, of which 88 people have been sentenced and 77 have been jailed.
Now, that compares to only 68 convictions for group-based child sexual abuse and exploitation in the town.
Well, we're joined now by GB News national reporter Charlie Peters. Morning, Charlie.
Good morning, and we knew this day would come. It was obvious when that incident happened last August, based on the hundreds who were there and the shocking scenes that we saw, the anger outside that Holiday Inn Express in Rotherham, the Manvers area, that there would be dozens of people jailed. And I knew that it would overtake the number of people in jail for group-based child sexual abuse and exploitation, the so-called grooming gangs in the town, because the comparative effort of the state to deal with that problem has been limited over the last few decades. Now, that was just one day of criminality in Rotherham. A lot of very angry people in Rotherham reacting horrifically to the anger sparked across the country by the Southport violence. But also, in that town, since 1997, we know that at least 1,510 children, most of them white girls, have been victims of abuse gangs that are predominantly Pakistani. And just 68 people have been jailed for those crimes, for those over 1,500 victims. So it was always going to be the case that they would overtake them, because at the time of these offences, at the height of the perpetration of this horrific abuse, the police were not dealing with it sufficiently. And we're revealing this today, the day after it's announced by the government, with about 45 minutes notice to the opposition benches about what was going to be in Jess Phillips's speech, on the last day before Easter recess, that they are removing their commitment to 5 local inquiries into the grooming gang scandal. Do you want to take our viewers back to January, when there was this big furore over the abuse gang scandal? Elon Musk sharing a lot of reporting being done by GBNews, exposing some of this scandal right across the country, and we revealed up to 50 different towns and cities involved in it. On the back of all that public pressure, the government on January the 16th announced, among several measures, they would push for 5 locally led inquiries, like the one we've seen in Telford or in Oldham or in Rotherham. Now, 3 months later, people have been waiting for an update on that. OK, we've kept reporting on the issue. We've not wanted it to fall out of the news agenda. But yesterday, the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, said that they no longer will be backing 5. Instead, after taking feedback from local authorities, they would be backing locally led work, a more flexible approach, so that areas can apply for different sort of support from the state. Support that could include victims panels, truth projects, therapeutic efforts, but not necessarily inquiries. We know that one will still go ahead, and that's in Oldham, and sources in the town told me yesterday that Tom Crowther KC, the barrister appointed by the government to look into this, did meet them as they prepared to launch their inquiry. But there are also troubling questions for the government about his involvement. Among that raft of announcements made in January, Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, also said that Mr Crowther would be developing a framework independently of the government in order to launch those 5 local inquiries. He revealed last week in the Home Affairs Select Committee that he's not been involved whatsoever, and that ministers are actually developing that framework. At one point, Tom Crowther, a very highly respected barrister, had to text, not email, it's all being done on text, a Home Office official, "Do you still want me?" Because they had not engaged with him enough. Yeah. So we're in this position now where that commitment to those 5 inquiries has been dropped. They could have more than 5 if a number of local authorities come forward. But Eamon, as you know, local authorities don't want to be investigated. They only go for these when they're pressured into it.
And this would be, I'm trying to think of the right word, some sort of penalty against people who would have been accused of grooming.
Well, that's the thing. In all of these inquiries so far, we've had truth, but not necessarily justice.
Yes.
Because they're local inquiries, they invite people to share experiences. They're not statutory. They don't have the powers to compel evidence, to compel witnesses, to bring people before a judge and cross-examine them. Which is why we've had lots of opposition to the government's plan, calling for a statutory national public inquiry to really expand the understanding of this crisis. Now, at the same time of these inquiries going on in the background, or not going on in the background, the government is also waiting for an audit being done by Baroness Louise Casey, looking at this pattern of abuse on a national scale to understand some of the social, ethnic or religious factors. That'll be an interesting thing to hear more on. They've also announced yesterday a child protection authority. They say the last government didn't push that forward in response to the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, one of the many recommendations they want to push forward. But the fact remains, Eamon and Ellie, they said there would be 5 local inquiries. Yeah. Now we know there will only be 1 as it stands. No other local authority has come forward and said, we want this inquiry to take place. And we know that there are up to 50 different towns and cities that could do with one.
Well, Charlie, what it seems to be is just too messy, too soft. But keep us posted. I know you're commentating on this throughout the day, but we've got to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you
very much indeed. Trick Awards, News Presenter of the Year. OK, don't forget.
Yeah, head to the website and you can scan the QR code to vote for Charlie. A Labour spokesperson said on all of this, shameless Robert Jenrick did nothing about heinous grooming gangs, whilst he had the power as a minister to help the victims of this appalling abuse. The Tories did not hold a single meeting with victims, police forces, external organisations, experts or councils, nor did they lift a finger to implement any of the recommendations of a 7-year-long national inquiry into child sexual abuse.